Hi, I'm Alex.
And I'm Nicole, and we are doing a different kind of video here today, aren't we? We're the co-founders of Iridescent Women and excited to have a conversation around kind of what's been going on and how it's been
Yeah,
affecting us and a lot of crazy things happening in the world these days with the coronavirus pandemic
yeah,
and how we can stay sane and stay connected during this time.
yeah. Obviously, we are doing the practicing of the social distancing. So,
Yes, you've seen it right now happening.
just trying to do our part. But a lot of us are doing that at the moment, and it can feel really isolating, and
Mhm.
it can feel like you're very distant from people. And while you're kind of alone in that, it's easy for anxieties to kind of rise up and for everything to feel a little bit overwhelming when you're not in your daily routine. So I guess we just wanted to have a little conversation around that today and maybe give some tips on how we can overcome those anxieties while we're in isolation and how we can still feel connected to people.
Yeah, I think there's like two things you hit on. One is the piece of just feeling isolated. Like that's a real thing. We were made for connection as humans. It doesn't matter if you're an extrovert or an introvert, you still need that human connection. So we're going to have to be creative on how to have that happening beyond maybe who's in our household or our neighbors right now during this time. So I think that's one thing. And then I also think, to your point, there's like a new norm for us. There's just the real practical side. And, my husband and I are both now working from home. That's a new norm to be like, I don't think that's new. We're figuring it out. It's great. And then, but I think about, you have actually been doing this rhythm for a while of having two
Right.
little ones in your home while you're working.
Yeah.
So in one sense, are you like more prepared than most? Probably.
Maybe.
Maybe. But there's a lot of people who all of a sudden went from having a job to homeschooling multiple children in their home while also having to do their job remotely while their spouse is in the same situation. Or some single parent homes where they're, that's like, okay, now I've got to do both of these things. How do I do it? And on top of that, there's probably some real stresses financially or just wondering what the future holds, and it feels a bit uncertain. So there's a lot to manage right now for us. And so there's the practical side. And then I do think there's the like connectedness side. So I want to hear your thoughts on how we can stay connected. Why don't we start there? Because I think you made some really good points just when we were chatting before we even started this call.
Well, I think, and you are right, I've been doing this social distancing thing called parenting twins for the last 5 months. And so I've been working remotely and I've kind of been, obviously I've been able to go out, but I have been in my house mostly during that time doing certain things. So for me, it's been really important to stay connected with my team via whatever channels of communication that your office has. Ours has Slack. So making sure that, we're staying connected, you and I, the team that I work with stays connected. Social media is another good one. Sometimes it can go the other way where it can draw comparison and make it hard for us to be like, oh, that person's doing that thing, but I'm not. Actually, this is a really great way for us to connect right now when we're all kind of in this together. We're all self-isolating, and it's a great way to share stories, share even just humorous stuff that's happening to you in amongst the situations and stay connected that way. And then just FaceTiming and texting. I meet a friend for coffee every week. She's actually flown to Florida to kind of escape the city during this time. We FaceTimed yesterday for coffee instead. And so just doing those little things, I think, is going to make us feel still connected to our people and our friends and make sure that we're not alone. Because I think also when we're isolated, all we're doing is getting information that's coming to us from, the media channels, and we're searching on the internet and we're trying to, find out all the information that we can, but that can feel a little overwhelming as well. And especially with the uncertainty that you said, like we don't really know what's happening day to day. We've just got to take the advice of the government and the local authorities. So anxieties can rise up within that. And I think it's really important to still chat with your friends, see how they're feeling, check in with them, make sure that you're kind of like sharing information there, but also making sure that you're getting the right information. I think that's really key too.
Yeah, that's so good. I think one practical thing I know, even for me, like my personality, I should be more like this, but isn't always to like reach out every day, you know, and text somebody or, you know, call somebody. Like it is a rhythm for certain people in my life, but not everybody. But I think one really practical thing, like every one of us can do, is just like every day reach out to somebody, you know, like a coworker, a friend that you're not being able to see as regularly, like a family member that you might not be able to, they're on the other side of the country or whatever, but just reach out one person a day. I think if we all do that, then it's gonna collectively, we're gonna create an environment where we are seeing how we're doing. We're creating those moments to have coffee, you know, via FaceTime, and have real conversations and laugh about things. And it's just good for the soul, and we need that. We were made for that. So I think we're going to have to be more proactive than maybe we've ever been before with this. But
which might be good habits, you know?
Exactly. I wonder, post everything kind of landing and us moving past this as humanity, if we haven't gained some new rhythms that are really great for our relationships and actually deepen community. One of my friends moved away a while ago. This was a few years ago, but moved to a different city. And I just thought, man, I'm not going to be able to stay as connected to this person. Ironically, we saw each other all the time. Like we worked in the same office, but when they moved, because we made more of an effort to really connect, it actually deepened our friendship. Right. It was really bizarre, but I think it's because we both were like uninterrupted. We weren't distracted. We weren't just around each other. We were actually like, hey, whenever we were on the phone, it was like, how are you really doing? And listening. It really did deepen the friendship. So I kind of wonder how that could happen for relationships if we just lean into this. It's can feel like a real disadvantage, but maybe over time it can actually become a real advantage to our relationships. And then there's just like the practical stuff, right? Like, let's talk about that for a second, because that's real too. I'm used to working from home some days. I'm also used to being able to get out and have meetings and go out to eat and be in the office as well. So I have like this mix. So it's been an adjustment for me to be full-time. It's certainly been an adjustment for me to share my home office with my husband. And for him, it's been an adjustment because he usually doesn't work from home. So we've been finding that rhythm. But I think creating rhythm is really important. I think, you know, like, hey, it's cool that you work in your sweatpants. I do, for sure. You're only seeing this half.
Yeah, I mean,
right.
Yeah.
But I think like things like, hey, like get up at the same time that you normally would to be getting work. If you went to the gym in the morning, do a workout from home. Like that's been a huge commitment to me. Is like, hey, I might not be able to lift all the weights and do all the things with the machines or whatever, take all the classes that I used to be able to, but I can work from home. There's so many great apps. There's so many great like resources out there, especially right now, for us to just like push the coffee table aside and be able to do something that gets us moving. Like that's been really important to me because I'm like, I'm not commuting as much as I used to. I'm not walking around as much. I'm not hitting the gym. I want to stay physically just like mobile and strong as much as I can. I think that's been one thing. I think another thing is just, you mentioned this earlier, but like just being able to decipher, you know, like there's so much information coming in, and somebody was telling me the other day, and I think they put it brilliantly, but somebody was taking a red eye to fly back and to get back to their city and kind of be with their people when all of this was going on. And this was just a couple days ago. And they said that, you know, they took naps during the red eye, basically, because you don't always get great sleep. But the way that they described it is the world kept changing every time I woke up from a nap. Like it would read things. And I think that speaks to how frequently things are, some places escalating, some places just creating a new norm. But there's just a lot of news happening right now. And I think with that, there can be like we almost get addicted to that information. Like we need to know, and then we become really reactive. So I think just putting some rhythms in place too, that's like, you know, hey, when you start your morning, just don't pick up your phone right away. Like wait 20 minutes. Instead, like take a breath, grab some coffee. For me, I sit down. Yeah. For me, I sit down, I like pray, I read my Bible, because that's really important to me to like center me and get going for the day. But like whatever it is, and then, you know, then I can pull up my phone and kind of see. And then I just I've been really trying to be mindful of how often I'm pulling my phone to see the updates, you know? So it's like not every hour I'm not checking my phone. Just like, hey, a couple times a day is great, because I do need to stay informed with how things are happening. I think where I'm getting my information really matters too, because everybody is giving news updates about the coronavirus right now. Every outlet, whether or not they're like super, legit or equipped to. So I think this actually points out good habits that we could develop post this pandemic in our lives, where we do have these rhythms of like, let's just like fact check a little bit. Let's like be really intentional about what news sources we're reading from. Let's also not just become addicted to information, but let's just have it be a rhythm of our life that makes sense for us so we can stay in a really healthy place mentally. And that's been really important to me. And even like, I was telling you a little bit this, but yesterday I went to the grocery store and it was crazy. It was like mayhem. And I felt like I was in the supermarket sweep, but like not exciting game show. Instead, pandemic, scary end of times. Felt like it was very strange. So I found myself like, you're walking down this aisle and I was like looking at everything like, do I want this? Do I want this? Do I want this? And I stopped and I was like, man, like my heart is racing. Like I take a minute, like, and I looked at what was in my basket. I'm like, half of this stuff I don't even like I don't even know if I would eat it, And so I was like, what do I actually need? Like, just make really responsible choices. Like, just be self, instead of like give into the anxiety and fear around. And that was like a really quick like heart check for me, or just like mental check. And then I was able to be like, okay, no, make better decisions. So I got rid of some of the stuff that was in my basket, got the things that were really essential for me and my husband, and got home and was like, okay, this is good.
I think that's a really good point as well, because it is really easy because it's so uncertain of how long this is going to be, what's going to happen afterwards, what supply chains are going to be like. Yes, it is important to stock up on some essentials, but let's be smart about it. And also, and there's a few stories going around about this at the moment, but we've got to look out for the people who don't have the current means to stock up, especially people with like lower incomes that might have a family. There was a story of a woman who, was looking everywhere for diapers for her child and couldn't. And so, check on your neighbors, make sure they're okay, especially if they have kids or a family to look after. How can you help them? Don't buy stuff unnecessarily. Stock up what you need, but don't feel so overwhelmed that you need to stock up for a year's worth of supplies, because we're going to be okay. And I think just making sure that we're keeping in mind other people within this as well is really important, and actually something that can be really good for us and our soul. Checking up on other people, doing what we can. If we're going to the grocery store, pick up something for someone else if you can. Just look out for one another during this, and I think we'll be able to ride it through and support one another.
It's so true. I was actually so proud of my mom. I was chatting with her and she said, we've all on our block like made a commitment to each other when we go shopping that we're going to shop for a couple people. There's a couple people that are older, one person that's an elderly person in their community that also is just already dealing with some other medical issues. So they're like, they're just being mindful. And because of that, and because they shared on like a group text, like, hey, we just went to the store and we got some extra paper towels for you. So here, come by, grab them, because I know you can't come out, and those kind of things. Then everybody's being taken care of. That to me is like a beautiful picture of humanity in the space of something that's really ugly right now. And we can all do that. Like wherever we are, we can do that for some people in our world. And I think you're right. I think especially in the place that we are right now, where things might feel a little bit isolated, might feel a lot isolated because we're like self-quarantining and working from home and all those things, to intentionally look beyond ourselves and look for other people is so healthy, and it's super refreshing, and it keeps our mind on the prize. Like, hey, this might be a difficult time, but we're going to get through this, and we're going to get through this together.
Absolutely.
And I think that if there's one other thing I could add in before we end this conversation, and I do know that this one is probably a longer conversation than some other ones, but I think we need it. It's a good one. And I really hope people have stayed tuned in for this one. And please feel free to like share this with people in your world if it's encouraging and helpful for them. But I think we have to really continue to make decisions out of this deep sense of purpose for us, and really hold on to that. Especially for some people right now who are like, man, I'm not able to work because my place of employment has shut down for a while, or or maybe you do have a place of employment right now and you're working from home, but there's uncertainty and you're like, I don't know what's going to be happening the next few months for me. I think when we have those worries and concerns, they can almost be paralyzing. And we end up just going, cool, I'm going to like Netflix binge because what else am I going to do? You know, and I love Netflix and I love a good binge, but I think more than ever, it is really, did I just say that? Yeah, I said
yeah. We can admit it. It's like, fine.
yeah. But I think it's really worth us staying true to our sense of mission and our sense of purpose. Mm-hmm. Like, what are the goals that you have for your life? The coronavirus will eventually pass. Mm-hmm. So keep at those goals, you know, even if you feel like there's some new obstacles in your way because of this, like keep true to it. Mm-hmm. I was talking to somebody, she's a contributor for Iridescent. And she's like, well, I got more time at home now, so I'm going to finish that book that I started. And I'm like, yes, like I love hearing those things, like people making really, like some people are like, I'm reading more books than I've ever read. I'm sharpening some skills. I'm taking webinars. Like I'm doing the things that have been in my heart for a while, and I'm going to really be intentional about that time. I love hearing those stories, and it really encourages and inspires me. So I think sometimes we want to kind of just like, it's so overwhelming. So we want to medicate with easy things like playing, you know, video games, or I don't know, like watching the latest live stream thing for like a few hours and just being like, I'm escaping. And I do think like every now and then, like that's not bad. But I think the better thing to do is go, no, I'm not going to escape. I'm going to face reality, and I'm going to have something greater within me to keep me moving forward, even in the midst of these times. Yeah, so absolutely. If we can encourage each other with that too, I think that's great. Not just, hey, how you doing at home, but also like, what's in your heart? What are you going to conquer? Like, how are you moving forward in the midst of this with the dreams inside of you? Yeah. I think that's really crucial. And I'm excited because I think that's so true to what Iridescent is about. Like we want to help women during this time of uncertainty. And we also want to remind everybody like, hey, there's purpose within you. There's brilliance within you. We believe in your potential, and we want to create resources and conversations that remind you of your potential and awaken it within you, especially during this time.
Yeah. I think in situations like this, there are always opportunities. And so while we don't want to capitalize on anything here, there are opportunities for us, just as you said, to take some extra time to see, you know, find out what is in our heart, what our dreams are, what we can be doing to work towards them in a time like this. I think it just makes it really encouraging and hopeful as well in a situation that might feel uncertain and hopeless. So definitely, I love all of that. And there's lots of tips on Iridescent Women as well. So head to the website because we've got a lot of stuff on there for you. So if you're looking for some information, we've got that there as well. And, you know, podcast interviews and interviews with brilliant women, all to inspire you. So if you're looking for some inspiration right now, that is the place to go. But we also want to hear from you. We want to know, what are you doing while you're sitting at home? How are you coping? How are you staying in touch with people? We want to hear all about it, and we want to know your tips and tricks as well, just to help us all get through this together. And we'll be keeping you up to date. So definitely check the website and our Instagram as well.